What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Coachable Podcast. I'm your host, Tori Gordon, and today I'm excited to have Ray Daley in the house, a new friend of mine who is an incredible trauma-informed somatic guide, sound therapist, and spiritual teacher. And we're going to have an epic conversation because I get the privilege of bringing on the people I want to get to know more, and she's definitely somebody who's come into my world recently, and I feel like I get to just have an hour with you to ask all the questions, and just it's my way of kind of getting people in this hot seat. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna be friends. We're gonna get to know you, and so thank you for giving me some of your time and being here on the show today.
Of course. It's kind of like a crash course in friendship.
We're
gonna be real close after this.
I know. It's like if you've ever been on a first date or like early on in dating and you've like played those like question games.
Yep.
This is that.
It's
for
exactly
friendship.
how I felt when I was filling it out. I'm like, oh, this is going to go deep.
Mm-hmm. So tell me just a little about you and your background. Give us context for just like, who is Ray in the world? Like, I think it's easy to ask the question, like, what do you do? And we can get into that. But like, I really want you to frame this response from like, who do you be? Who are you? Like, and what do we need to know about you to understand kind of who you are?
Jumping right in.
Yeah.
A little bit about me. I mean, I'm a Cali girl, so originally from California, but I moved to Vegas pretty early on. So I went to high school here. Vegas kind of raised me, I would say. Mm-hmm. So I do have a lot of that as like my background, very much a city girl, but traveling has my heart. So I'm a big traveler. Mm-hmm. I've been traveling for the last like 10 years pretty consistently, not only around the States, but across the world. Yeah. And that has shaped a lot of the person that I am. And I would say that I'm changing so much all the time that there are things in my life that I feel like are anchors or that have been like my biggest teachers. Yeah. And growing up, I would say the first thing that kind of connected me to a deeper sense of self is the proximity that I had to addiction in my life. It's not my personal journey, but there's a lot of people in my life that struggled with it. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to be something that kind of gravitated towards me a lot for some reason, whether it was family, friends, a lot of experiences around drugs, alcohol that were not positive. So I think at a young age that kind of created an identity around myself as like a fixer, a healer, somebody who wanted to take care or be there for people that were struggling before I even understood what addiction was. Sure. So I would say that has been something that has shaped my life in a big way. Having a parent who struggled with addiction and kind of figuring out, you know, why is this taking my parent from me? Why a lot of those things kind of make you look at yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think that is probably the first thing in my life where I started to look at me and started to look a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. So when I was in college, my degree was in addiction treatment counseling. Okay. I thought I wanted to be a counselor to start. So I did that. And through my schooling, I felt that it was a little heavy to sit with people in that and just be a talk therapist, just talk to them about it. Although that's what I did a lot of my life growing up, having, you know, family, friends, partners even that struggled with it. I was always like the shoulder to lean on or the ear to listen, you know. But to make that my whole life in a career felt really, felt like something I couldn't commit to. And as I was graduating, I was with a partner who was struggling with that as well. And I was like, you know what? This can't be what I do for my life. So after graduation, that's where I first dove into myself. I was like, I want to explore more of this like mind-body connection and like go deeper into like what makes people go there or need to go there or just explore more of that.
Yeah.
So after college, went on my first international trip with like 3 of my girlfriends, and we told our parents we'd be gone 3 months. we ended up being gone almost a year.
Oh, wow.
We just stayed out as long as we could.
Yeah.
And I really fell in love with travel. So many things about it, not just like the fun experience, woohoo, like let's go to a new place and take Instagram photos, although that was a huge part at the beginning.
Sure.
But really putting yourself in an environment that you're not familiar with, day in and day out. Every single day is a new day, and you have to be very present in order to get by when it's a new language, when it's a new environment. So traveling is what really got me present in myself and my body so that I could make my way through the world. Yeah. It had been my first time ever being out of the country. So travel has taught me a lot and changed my perspective. I remember the first country we went to was Thailand. A lot of people's first.
I'm dying to go.
Oh my gosh. It's so worth the hype. Everything about it. The reasons people love it. It is such an amazing place. And this is the perfect example of it, is like there's so many people there who have so much less than most of us. I saw these kids like playing with a stick and a rock, like the happiest people I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, I got to look at myself.
What are we not understanding about happiness?
Like I have all of this access and they have so much. I don't want to say less because they have more, really. They're happy with so much less. And so that was another big piece of why I fell in love with traveling, is just, again, seeing other people, seeing through their lenses. So that has shaped me in a big way. And then throughout our journey, throughout our travels, we made our way through Asia and then found ourselves in India. And I was doing a lot of yoga by then. I was very hippied out. I had like a dread. I was, I was like all into it, smoking spliffs. Like I was very like hippied out. I was in it. After a year in Asia, that's just kind of what happened. Yeah. But I was like, you know what, I want to take this deeper. Like I want to dive into like the culture. I want to know more. So I was looking up yoga trainings and I was like, let's just do this. I want to go deeper. My yoga journey was never like, hey, I want to be a yoga teacher. Let's find a yoga training and let's do it. Yep. It was more so like, I just want to go deeper.
Follow the curiosity.
I want to know. Yeah, I want to know more about myself, about the culture, I just want to know.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to Nepal for a month-long training in the mountains. Wow. Very removed. Wow. Very traditional, with a guru who is amazing, but like very Nepali, like
rigid.
Yes, yeah. Very rigid, and that's the anchor of yoga. So I was like, let's do it. Let's dive head first.
Yeah,
and it was a lot, but I learned even more about myself. So yoga in itself has been another staple in the person that I am. Although it hasn't stopped there. I don't just teach yoga. It's continuously gotten deeper. But yoga has kind of taken me on that path to go deeper and deeper, to go deeper into my body, go deeper into my energetics and all of that kind of stuff. So as I've dove deeper into my self-practices, I think that's where I've began to like know myself more. But yeah.
I love that.
To say, I guess, that there's so many pieces of me and they're all like ever evolving. Like I'm always going to be traveling. I'm always going to be practicing yoga. I'm always going to be dealing with people who are struggling and being like the support to lean on. But I would say like those are the biggest things that make me me, and definitely threads that I've seen kind of interweaving themselves throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love that.
To make a short answer long.
Well, it's always so interesting, to hear the origin kind of story and background of what makes someone desire to go into a role of service the way that we are, right?
Totally.
And oftentimes I find that it's because it's like the wounded healer. Like we have something that we've been working on healing. And so we've utilized these tools in our own healing journey and then turn around and teach them. Or, we've hit some kind of rock bottom moment at some point in our lives. I'm curious for you, like, when do you feel like your spiritual awakening started to occur? Was there something that happened in your life that made you start to become conscious of yourself and more self-aware and ask these deeper questions? You said addiction is part of that for you, but I'm curious, when do you consider your spiritual awakening to have started? Because we're always sort of in processes of that.
I feel like for some reason in this life, I have like slowly had awakenings that have just like compounded on one another. So I mean, I had a really big one, would be like 3 years back, but by that point I'd already been like very into my path and all of those things. I'd already been teaching yoga. It hadn't been as deep as it is now, which I think that's like the evolution of who we are as healers. Our work gets deeper as we go through our own stuff, like you said. But a couple years ago, I was just very much. I'm an Aries.
Me too.
Yeah. Aries sisters. I'm like very determined. I'm like, go after whatever I see that I want. So a few years ago, I was working like 3 jobs. I was creating a yoga therapy program for like a wellness facility, integrative wellness facility. And I was very passionate about bringing yoga to their place. They had like chiropractic, energy work, massage therapy, all these different things. And I was like, this could work perfect. So after my last trip, I came back. We started the program. And as I was building it, they kind of noticed that like I was into social media, I was into marketing and all that stuff. They're like, can you help us? And I was like, of course. I'm the most helpful. I always want to help everyone. I took on more than I could. Yeah. Which again is my practice, setting boundaries and all of that stuff, which has been a part of my most recent awakening is the boundary aspect. But so I had my hands full with that. And then on the side, I was also bartending and I was working late nights. I was working till 3, 4 in the morning. I've had that Vegas girl like piece of me since I was 21. Like you work in the industry, you make great money there, and you follow your passion with the money that you make there. I funded all of my travels that I've ever been on. I've been to almost 30 countries from bartending. Wow. So it's just something that I haven't let go of just yet. But the environment that I was in was not in alignment with where I wanted to go. Sure. And this was the perfect kind of combination of things to kind of make me crumble and see that. So I was working 3 jobs, sleeping very little, but showing up and really nose to the grindstone, really trying to make it happen, and had to prove to myself that I could make this yoga program work, had to prove to everybody else, had to, all of this stuff, like proving myself as if I wasn't already good enough kind of thing. So I ended up, I was so stressed that I wasn't eating. I lost a bunch of weight. I wasn't sleeping well. All of these things that are not me and that I was doing just to like push myself to make it happen. Yeah. And that started to affect my mental health. I was anxious, stressed, lashing out at family, friends, all that stuff. So there was just a point where I was like, this isn't worth it. And I had to surrender. I was like, what are you doing to yourself? Like, let's look in the mirror. You're trying to start a yoga program that is based on all the things you're not even doing for yourself.
Yeah.
So that was a really big awakening for me and an eye-opener. And I quit my job. I didn't have a job. I quit the bar. I didn't have any jobs at all. And I was like, okay, I'm still going to bartend, but what is more in alignment with me? So I started working at a golf course, morning shift, outside, in the sunshine, in the fresh air. Started working with more clients. I built my website. I just had more energy to do the things naturally instead of feeling like I was pushing myself so hard. So I felt like aligning myself to the person I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the person who was up late at night, going to bed at 4 a.m. and then having to wake up at 8 a.m. to go to work. I had to start being the person that I was saying that I was. So I started showing up, waking up early, diving into my rituals, going to work outside, showing up for my clients better. And it just felt and still feels like alignment brings you the opportunities rather than you having to go for them or reach for them or grab for them. Like this, for example, my word for this year is alignment.
Love that.
And my word for that year was surrender. And then my word for last year was ease. And it's kind of a nice little flow chart. It's like the more you surrender and the more you are at ease, you'll find yourself in alignment with where you're supposed to be going.
Yeah.
Like the universe will bring you the things that you need. The universe will bring you the opportunities for growth. And that's what this is for me, is like, I want more experiences to be presented to me that I can say, yes, I want to grow. I want to do this. I want to experience this. I want to. So I think as I continue to awaken and open my eyes to more, I'm just noticing that the more present I am and the more that I practice what I preach and the more that I am living in my truth, that I'm kind of just being given everything that is meant for me anyway.
Isn't that funny?
And it's
how it works
such
like
a
that?
beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm not exhausted all the time. I get to do things that excite me.
Yeah.
I get to show up in ways that feel natural without pushing myself or being exhausted. I get to, right?
Yeah.
I get to wake up and do all of this stuff versus like, oh, I got to wake up another day and be exhausted and chug 4 cups of coffee and just make it through the day.
Well, that's like the survival-based paradigm that is rooted ultimately in fear. Like, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to have, or then this thing's not going to work out, or I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, right? And it's like, I think the spiritual path for me has been just this process of moving from fear to love, right? Over and over and over again, of like, where in my life am I still operating out of fear?
Right.
What part of my psyche is still operating in a paradigm that says I can't, or that's too much, or I'm not allowed, or if I do this, then this negative, bad thing's going to happen, right? If I let go of this opportunity that feels stable and feels secure, I'm not going to be okay, right? And that's when we run face to face into trust. And like, are we actually going to trust as people who claim to have this belief in something higher that is beyond ourselves, that we claim, at least for me, to love that is a loving force that I've been created by and that co-creates through me. Like, if I actually believe that, why don't I walk that out in my life and let my life be a reflection of that truth, right? And is that easier said than done? 1,000%.
Totally. We're all human.
But I think that's the process of, for me, over and over in my life continually asks me, how much do you trust me? And even up until like a couple days ago, I was telling you this off camera, I had a situation where somebody tried to steal steal thousands and thousands of dollars from me in crypto. And it was like this whole headache. And it sent me into a fear spiral. Like literally, I was like, oh my God, this is like all of my savings. What am I going to do? I immediately went into worst case scenario thinking
totally.
of I'm going to, this is it. Like I can't sustain this any longer. I'm going to have to pack up the business, move home. Like I was really like thinking it's all done for me.
Yeah.
And the process of regulating myself to get to a point where it's like, I am still safe. This is all happening. This feels really chaotic and uncertain. And all of the what ifs are coming up. And all I'm responsible for right now is taking care of my internal world and controlling what I can control. And I went through the full range of emotions.
Totally.
And my like mantra that I love is trust, surrender, which is the word you used, and then receive. We can't receive what we're really calling for and calling in if we're still holding on to what we've had. And a therapist friend of mine once said, he's like, your life will change when you give up what feels safe for what actually is safe. And what he meant by that is like, it feels safe to hold on to and cling to the familiar. And it's like, I know you've made money through these different avenues and these different ways in your life, but you've now come to a realization where there's a lack of congruence or a lack of alignment. And life, God, universe asks like, are you willing to obey? Are you willing to walk in the way that you know is like most aligned for you? And let me support you. Let me, life, essentially bring the people, opportunities, and experiences that you need for you to live in your highest expression. And it's that trust fall of like, I'm willing to actually not just think about it and flirt with it and talk about it, but do it, that I think our faith is tested, but we actually find out if we believe what we say we believe.
Totally.
You know, because it's easy to talk about surrender. To actually practice surrender is different.
Totally.
What does that actually like look like in your life? How do you even define surrender? Like, what does that mean to you?
I think it means just letting the pieces fall away that are falling away, instead of trying to like, out of scarcity mindset or out of fear, trying to like keep everything together. It's like things are falling away for a reason, right? Like one of the women who I love in the community, Lauren and I, who I do some ceremony with, we were talking as we were creating one of our events, and we were like, it's so interesting because, we've had events together before, and, the universe is kind of bringing us back together. And it's interesting because as humans, we picture exactly what we want and exactly how it's supposed to happen. And I think that's where we sell ourselves short in thinking that there's like one, maybe two, or maybe three ways that we can get to the end goal.
Like we know best.
Yeah. And it's like the universe just like laughs in our face, and it's like, nah, we're taking you this way and you're going to get there, but you're going this way. And there are a multitude of possibilities out there. And when we focus too much on one way to get there, we're kind of blocking any blessings that are being sent our way. And so I think when we surrender and let the pieces fall away, let the relationships fall away, let the jobs fall away, let whatever is happening in the moment, let it fall away, because you're creating space for whatever the universe is trying to send you, whatever that is, to whether it's a lesson or whatever, to make you grow into that version of yourself that you need to be to get to that place you need to go.
And it can feel like absolute death, like in the moment.
And it kind of is.
It is.
Parts of your identity are completely being ripped away. You're like, who am I without this piece, without this partner, without this job, without this career? Who am I?
And you literally go into the void of nothingness of like, who am I? And then there's like a emptiness and nothing, like where we used to fill it with all these identities on all these labels and all these stories. And when that's gone, it's from that void or the womb space that something new can be created. And like the day after I had that whole crypto issue, I'd had like a string of things. I had to have like a unexpected dental work. I had this crypto thing. I ended up getting like a stomach virus. The next day, I couldn't figure out like what to do about my financial issue because the banks were closed for President's Day. It was just a full shit show. But I still showed up to, life. And the next day ended up being the most profitable day in my business that I've had in probably 2+ years. Like a four-figure day, like really great day for myself. And no, 5-figure day. And I was like, wow, let's like look at the miracles. And it wasn't something I could take credit for by any means. It was just like, this is what gets replaced when you kind of bring an open palm to life. I think we want to just hold on. It reminds me of this story. I think I've told it on the show before, but it's like the monkey in the cage. Essentially, like there's a monkey inside a cage and it sees like some nuts outside the cage and it like sticks his hand out and he grabs the nuts. But as soon as he balls his fist up, he can't get his hand back into the cage to eat them.
I love that.
So it's like we are trapped and stuck to the degree to which we are still holding on to something. And the moment we open our palm and say like, I'm available for whatever, it's to receive it, but I'm not attached to it, is like when we experience the freedom to move fluidly through life. And it's like this idea of non-attachment that I try to come back to, or the art of detachment that we hear a lot about. Was that something that came up for you in like any of your trainings, like in Nepal or yoga? Like, what has your experience?
Some pretty funny
stories.
I'd love to
hear what that was like.
About detaching and non-attachment. So a couple of my girlfriends, we actually all did our trip together, and it's so funny to look back at like the beginning of my trip because we were in Thailand and we stayed at a place. It was a hostel, so it was like a little grungy, but we were like, we want the full experience, we want to meet people, all of that kind of stuff. Second stop on our trip, hostel, same thing, a little dodgy. And one of our girlfriends ended up getting bed bugs.
Oh no.
Second week of our trip.
Oh no.
And I was like, absolutely not. She was like my roommate. I was like, no way. I was like, I'm ditching the whole backpack and I'm getting new stuff. And so from week 2 of our trip, I got rid of most of my belongings, almost everything that I owned that I was wearing on my back, and was like, we're starting fresh. Like, so it was kind of like a crash course right away. And then in like our trainings and all of that, you kind of have to let go of the lifestyle that you're used to and be open to what they're trying to teach you, even if you don't see it in the moment. So you got to let go of like any preconceived notions of like how you think a yoga training's supposed to be, or, because it totally wasn't that, especially being in like the foothills of Nepal with a guru. It's like, it was a lot more nitty gritty than like your average,
or polished like Western,
like yoga training on the beach in Mexico, which I've also done. I'm no shade to that at all. I've done that too, and I love both, and I've learned so many lessons from both. But definitely like strips away the luxuries that we're used to. I mean, it was towards the end of my trip, so luxury was a very far idea for me at that point. Like we were in hostels and pretty cheap accommodation most of the time. But towards the end of my yoga training, I was so in love with Nepal. Like, I didn't want to leave, to the point where I called my mom, who I told, mind you, that I would be gone 3 months.
Right.
And it's 10 months later, and she's like, girl, what is happening? Like, come home. And I'm like, can you sell my car? Like, I need to stay out a little longer. And she's like,
I need more money, Mom.
My goodness, girl. And she's like, yeah, she sold me my car and sent me the money, and I stayed out even longer.
Wow.
So, again, travel. I come back to travel every time. it has taught me so much about not needing excess.
See, I want to know that.
And
Life.
It's so, a lot of people that know me on a personal level, they can vouch for the fact, like, we'll go shopping and I'll pick up all of these things. I'm like, oh, this is cute. This is cute. Like, and I think there's like funny little reels and videos online about this, but like, I'm such a girl shopper. I pick up a bunch of things and then go to the checkout line. I'm like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need this. Like,
put it all back.
I put it all back. And I am just like that in every aspect of my life. And I attribute it to travel and living with like 3 outfits on my back for a full year that I'm just like, I genuinely just don't see the need for so many things.
Yeah.
But I will drop money on travel. I will drop a lot of money on travel, I will say.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all have our stuff.
Absolutely.
We all have our stuff. No shade, no hate. I definitely spend money on things like that. So,
well, I'm going to have to get all the travel recommendations from you
got
because
you.
I am itching.
Let's go on a trip.
I'm itching to get out of
Let's go.
Vegas. Literally, I'm like feeling the need because there is really no quicker way to create transformation in your life than changing your environment. I really believe that because if you're feeling stuck or just stuck in any kind of like rut or pattern or whatever, changing your environment and getting out somewhere completely different is going to shake up your whole like neurochemistry of like your perspective, the way you see yourself, the way you see life. And for me, it's like it's almost like doing psychedelics because it gives you this zoomed out perspective and helps you to like see a bigger picture than you didn't see before. And for me, travel has always been one of those things like that gave me the fresh opportunity for another version of myself to come forward in ways that it hadn't, or in my past or at home or where I was from. Because even moving out to Vegas, I was doing solo traveling before I came here. I was like in Sedona and went to the Grand Canyon and was like cross country traveling. And coming to Vegas brought out a part of me, a playful part that had never been embodied before because I was such a performer. I was such a high achiever. I was very serious. A lot of serious things happened in my life that caused me to like be very dedicated. It's also my Aries, you know, very committed and like direct about what I want and going for it. But that had a heaviness to it. Like an intensity to it. And that's definitely still part of me. But coming here and meeting the certain types of people and the energy in different places will just evoke a different aspect of your essence than I'd ever like gotten to tap into before.
Totally. I like used travel a lot for a lot of different things. It's funny because it has changed me so much as a person. I joke about it being like I was a runner. Like anytime I would get out of a breakup, I was in another country.
Okay.
Like I'm gone and I would come back a completely new person.
Interesting.
Like it was like, so you're totally right. It's like you need to like zoom out or you need to like, and it's also through being like that runner or needing to escape or going somewhere to like get away, it somehow turned into me being able to like appreciate what home is.
Tell me more.
And that's only been like the last few years, I would say.
Yeah, tell me more. What does home mean to you?
I have, again, the last few years have been so transformative for me, just like finding what feels good for me and living in alignment with that. And for so long, I would, you know, work my butt off all summer and travel all winter and just be gone for as long as I can until my last dollar ran out. And that felt good for a long time, or I thought it did for a long time. But as I've found, one of my themes for the last couple of years was like, I want to have roots and wings because I've flown so freely for most of my 20s. Like I was just out there, like, where can we go, when, how much, who's in, let's go. And thankfully I have a lot of friends that do that too. So it was just easy for us to like pick up and go. And as I started to like build my life here, like genuinely build it around things that were important to me, it started to feel good to come home. After every trip, it wasn't like, boom, you're home. Okay, let's get back to saving so we can get back out there.
So
it like felt good and nourishing to be home. And for me, that looks like creating a space that I can do my practices, that I want to show up and do my practices, that I got 2 puppies that I just absolutely love, and they just like fill me with so much joy. So I know that's a part of it.
That's a commitment.
It is. And it is. A lot of it is, and I think that's the perfect example, is I was a runner. I was running from more commitment. I was
Yep.
like, I'm like, no.
I was like, I wonder if you put those 2 things together.
For sure. Commitment was super hard for me. Like, I didn't want to get new cars. I didn't want to buy a home. I was like, no, I don't want any. And then I was like, maybe I do want a little bit of roots. Like, let's see how this feels.
Yeah.
So I bought a home. I got 2 dogs. And it's funny because people were like, yeah, once you get dogs, you're not going to be traveling as much. And I was like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And then same thing. Once I bought this house, they're like, oh, you're going to be wrapped into that mortgage. You're not going to be traveling as much. I'm like,
I'll show you.
all right,
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
And it will always be a piece of me, no matter how much of a home I create around the things that I love. It'll always be something that, I mean, I feel at home when I travel just about anywhere because I've created that within myself at this point. Like I said, with the rituals and all of that, and just like following what lights me up. But yeah, just creating a space for yourself to land, I think. Land in all the ways, not just like land home from a trip, but like land home after work.
Yeah.
And like you can really be held in somewhere that's like nurturing for you.
Yeah.
So building a home seeing it being built from the ground up and being next to the mountains. Like, I think that was a big piece for me, is like, I didn't just want a house in the city. Like, I want to be out by the mountains. I can see the mountains from my backyard.
Oh, amazing.
So just building things, like getting to know myself and what I need and what I want, and building a home around that.
Yeah. I love what you said about roots and wings. That's my favorite, because ultimately, that's really what I desire too. I recently was dating a guy who was similar to you. Like, he's a runner. He's like from Vegas. He's like, I hate Vegas. I can't live in Vegas anymore. He came back because his like father was dying, and so he like had to come back home to family.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm off. He was living in Thailand. Like, he was like living all over the globe, and he's like, I need to get out. I need to get out. But it sparked these discussions between like having stability and having a home and having adventure and freedom and exploration, which are all values of mine. And I wonder, like, if it's, because for you, do you think it's different now at this period of your life because you're getting older, that you're wanting more roots than you ever have had before?
I think so. And getting more real with myself. I think for the longest time, when you're kind of on autopilot, or you're just kind of like searching for the fun, you're like, oh, traveling, you're going to get that. You're going to get all the excitement, the adrenaline, the fun, all that stuff. So I think for a long time, it was just chasing that. And once you're out there for so long, regardless, you're going to start to look at yourself. And
because no matter where I go, there I am.
Yes,
essentially.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is like, you can't run from who you are or the problems you have.
Yeah.
They're always going to be with you. So I think that just, again, with age and being more real with myself, looking at myself more deeply and how I want to feel and how I want to show up. Although I had so much fun, I was exhausted a lot of the time. I pushed myself to the max, and we got sick out there. We still pushed through. Like, there were just things, we put ourselves in dangerous situations. There's just things where you start to look and you're like, I don't need all of that. Like, I can find excitement in the mundane. I can find happiness in the mundane. I can find all of those things in the day to day. And I think that's where things have changed for me, is like, I don't need every single experience to be the most exciting, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited to like go wake up, let my dogs out, go drink my my greens in the sun. Like, those things really light me up now. So it's just, I think, following what lights me up in each stage of my life.
Yeah.
So I think yes to what you said. It's like, it is the stage that I'm at. And who's to say if I didn't get all those experiences in my 20s, if I would feel that
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure people with the flip of it, it's like they worked hard all of their 20s and then their 30s,
Yeah.
they may feel differently. So,
Or they're like, before I have kids, let me get out there and
Yeah.
like see the world or whatever
Yeah.
it might be, you know?
so yeah, I think it's a good principle to live by for anyone. Roots and wings, like find where you can feel steady and nourished and filled and where you can grow so that you can fly freely without any of like the heaviness of it.
Yeah. Because that's like the dream, essentially for me. It's like sometimes I think as a society and a culture, let me just ask this as a question because I don't know what your thought is. This like, especially for women, this idea of having it all. Like, it's like you can't have it all. You got to pick and choose, you know, what you want. It's like I want to have a home, but I want to have adventure. I want to have freedom, but I also want to have a family or I want to have dogs. You know what I mean? It's like I find this push and pull in myself at times of a desire for stability and structure and routine and a desire for novelty and spontaneity and excitement and adventure. And I think that little saying just encapsulates all of it, you know, and at the same time, different seasons call for different things. And I think it reveals a level of maturity within you and just like your path and your growth of kind of asking this question, like, what am I looking outside of myself for that this gives me that I haven't been able to cultivate within myself? Right. And that's what I think developing a home within yourself really is about. It's like, what does this relationship or this travel or this job or whatever give me that I think I need?
Totally.
And how can I start to create practices and rituals and a lifestyle that develops that within myself first and not as something I'm seeking as if I don't have it.
Exactly.
Right?
Couldn't have said
I don't
it
even
any
know.
better.
That was not a question.
My gosh.
That wasn't a question, but
I wish I answered it just like that because that was exactly exactly right. Like I think having it all, I think we can have it all, but you have to have a balance of all the things that you want. So like you said, it's how can you create the space inside of yourself to understand what you need and when, and to, you know, use your wings or when to use your roots and kind of finding that dance with your needs, your desires, and following what's lighting you up in the moment because it's going to be continuously changing throughout your life.
It's that pendulum. It's like, and the roots and wings is also for me. It's the masculine and the feminine dance too. It's the doing and the being. It's the rest and the work. It's the play and the seriousness. It's the contrast. It's the duality of life. We need both.
Totally.
Right. And if we're only doing one, if we're only flying around like birds and exploring and adventuring, we're missing the stability and the grounded aspects of
life.
Like
nourishment. You need the nourishment. Like birds aren't just always flying. They got to make it back.
A nest. Where's the nest?
They got to make it back.
Yeah.
And like finding that has made my adventures so much more fulfilling, I think. So.
I know you've got a retreat coming up
I do.
in Peru.
Yes.
Tell me about that and what the origin story of that is. What's happened? What's your relationship to Peru and
so
why is that important to you?
The same women that I went on my very first international trip with, we did Thailand all the way through India and Nepal, all that stuff. We all ended up, by the end of that trip, not all together, but all ended up having done a yoga training.
Wow.
One of us, she had it in her plans to do it. This is kind of part of it. But the rest of us, it kind of just trickled into that.
Yeah.
And so we all came home, went back to our lives, and I think she was the only one that really went in for like yoga teaching. She wanted to teach, she wanted to be a teacher. And so went back to our everyday life, still practicing yoga, getting deeper into the practices. And then we're like, you know what? we travel quite a bit. Like, why don't we help other people travel? Like, we have so many friends. It's like, oh, I wish I had friends like that. Or, I wish I could.
I know. I was like, I want to be in your friend group.
I wish I had a friend I could just like hop on a plane with and go wherever. And we're like,
this was why I had you on the podcast.
Yeah, I was
like, this was my strategy.
That could be us. Like, we could be your friend. So that was kind of where that started. We're like, we love to travel. We would love to take people to all the places that have like really impacted us, whether that's culturally or what have you. So that's where our mind started working. We're like, okay, like, where should we go? All of these things. We're like, do we want to go back to Asia? We're like, that's kind of far. So then we went on this kind of business trip, I guess. It was, trip like any other that we had taken in the past. But we went through Mexico. We're like, let's try to find, something close that we could take people to. So we found a couple of retreat places in Mexico, and then we're like, you know what, let's just keep going south. So we went to Guatemala. We ended up doing a training in Guatemala, a 300-hour training in Guatemala. And it was the most transformational retreat I think I've been on. I've been on a lot of really good retreats, so it's hard for me to say that.
What kind of training was it?
It was, they called it a holistic yoga training.
Okay.
So we had plant medicine. We did like a full-on 300-hour, like we were in it. But at the end, we had a plant medicine experience, and it was very culturally aligned too. We got to really dive into like just all of the things that make Guatemala so amazing.
The land there.
Yeah, the land, the people, the traditions, all of it. So they did a really good job of encapsulating all of it. And I think that's where we were like, this is what we want to share. Like, let's keep traveling to places where we find pockets of like real depth and culture that we can find and show people, because we found so much growth there.
Sure.
And if I'm finding myself changing and growing and evolving and having these amazing experiences, I want to share that with other people.
You're a girl from California finding yourself in Guatemala.
Yeah.
But like, to have someone like you bridge those worlds, for people and say that I've gone and experienced something. There's magic here.
Yeah, exactly.
Come see what we've experienced and what we found.
Exactly.
It probably gives a doorway and an invitation to people who might not have ever had that experience before.
Exactly. So we kind of kept following the trail, following the spark. We kept going south. We went through Costa Rica, found a couple places there, but we kind of just kept traveling until we found spots that like, we were like, this is it. Like, it just felt so potent.
Yeah. And
we found this place in Peru. And not only is it like so gorgeous, it's just full of so much intention, I think is why I fell in love with it. At the time, I was doing a lot of work with like the chakras, and a lot of the yoga classes that I was teaching were really based on like energy work, chakras, all of that stuff. So when we found this place, it was literally built as like the chakra system.
Oh, wow.
So like these bungalows, there's like a root chakra bungalows, and then like to the point where like all the plants around the root chakra bungalow were all red, all different variations of like red plants, and like so much intention going into this. So it's gorgeous. It's full of intention. And then we meet the people that hosted us, and they were the kindest, like Peruvian people are just kind in general, like just some of the most amazing people. But they were really stewards to this land. Like, they gave so much love and appreciation to this land to the point where they had like a little welcoming ceremony when we got there. They had some food for us that they picked from their land that they had blessed for us. It was just very, it's like they welcomed us into their world so quickly. And it was like with open arms, like, let me show you the ways of our world and our land and what this can do, like this nourishing energy. So there were so many reasons why we picked Peru. And I would say a lot of it is the people, because, I mean, you can go to any retreat center and bring whatever you want to bring there. But it's very few and far between that you'll find a retreat center that is so integrated into the culture, into the land that is holding you.
Yeah.
And they even bring in, they bring in gurus, they bring in people that are going to like help you dive deeper. Like they had a shaman open our last retreat there. We had a retreat last year there. And she came in, a woman shaman, mind
That's
you.
beautiful.
She was awesome. She came in and opened our circle for us. And she asked the land if we could be here. She asked our ancestors if we could like move forward on this land. And it was just so beautiful. It was something that you don't get everywhere. So we're like, we're coming back. Like we're bringing people here, and we will continue to bring people here until it doesn't feel like this. And every time that I've been there, it's felt even more and more magical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fell in love with Peru, as you can see.
I
love the people. I love the place. It is so nourishing. The land itself is just so potent. So I'm really excited. We're going November 2nd through the 8th if you want to come, Tori.
I've never been to Peru, and I've been dying to. I mean, the land definitely speaks to me, and there's so much we can learn from indigenous practices and the indigenous people and their relationship to the earth and their reverence and respect for the sacred that I don't think I know that we don't have in our Western culture in the same way, and has been lost. And anytime I have the opportunity to learn and to sit in ceremony or in circle with people who have such a deep relationship to Gaia and the plants and the plant allies, and is an opportunity for me to sit back and be a student and just to like absorb, because there's so much that I don't know just being from where I'm from, and and it gives me such a beautiful like respect and honor for the lineages and the traditions and the people that have preserved like the medicine and these practices for thousands and thousands of years to help us for the same purpose that we're all on, which is to heal and to grow and to find, the alignment that feels good for us, and to be able to connect with these teachers and allies and land in that way, I think is like oftentimes a key that will unlock something in you that you didn't even know was there.
Like I said, one of my biggest teachers. And I will continue to let it teach me, because there's so much that we can get, like you said, from people who have been here a lot longer than us and know a lot more than us. And we have to respect the people who, came up with the rituals that we're teaching.
Totally.
And like learn from them as much as we can, because we want to make sure we're, offering the same depth when we are doing that. So I love to learn every time I'm there more and more about the stuff that I bring home, because I feel like I resonate deeper with it. And the more we resonate, I mean, as you know, the more we resonate with the practices that we teach, the more potent it is for others. So Peru, I'm so excited.
So if people are interested in that trip, how do they get more information?
My website, I have a link there that will give you all the information, all the options, and I mean, you can reach out to me directly.
Okay. What's your website?
www.raysrituals.com.
Okay.
And email ray@raysrituals.com. So any questions with that? Again, I just come be a friend and come. Let me take you on a ride.
Yes,
Let's go.
girl. I'm down. I'm so down. We'll put all of that in the show notes, make it super easy for you guys to connect with Ray, learn about more of what she's doing, what you're up to in the world. I think, what I respect so much about you is we share a similar vision for what we want, for what we see for Vegas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vegas has quite a reputation, and you're like spirituality in Sin City. It's like, talk about a contrast of the light and dark. But there are so many people, you being one of them, that are committed to service and to like bringing these tools and modalities and healing. And I'm seeing, I don't know about you, but like Vegas, there is like pockets of Vegas where it's turning into, people are coming here for other reasons other than just to like get inebriated and
Yeah.
like forget their life.
Yes.
Like I want this to be a place where people come to remember who they are and their
Yeah.
own power and their own ability to heal,
Same. And I like that we're doing it in a very Vegas-y way.
Yeah.
We're like,
Lights
let's do an
and-
immersive experience.
Yeah.
Like, let's make it like, on acid and make it
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like, but let's use our breath. And
Right.
like, that's our like.
I know. Literally, I did a breathwork event inside of Zouk nightclub.
I know.
Which was just like the most Vegas thing
It
you
is.
could get.
And I love it.
Yeah. And I was like, what a cool, like, dichotomy. And
It is.
to be in a place where people.
And I'm loving like finding that
Yeah.
kind of crossover because it's like play. It's creative. It's like we get to have fun. Again, like I will always be this Vegas girl, this city girl. It's a city that raised me. And I'm also this like world traveler who for a long time it felt hard to bring those two together. And one of my mentors, one of my really dear friends, Dana, she has shown me that like I don't have to be one or the other. She is a really powerful woman in like holding all these different versions of self and like showing up still very authentically. So for me, it's been fun now. At first, I felt a lot of confusion of like, how do I show up in different like
How do I fit?
Yeah. How do I blend all of these versions of myself? And now it's like fun to see how we can blend like the positives of like Vegas and like what Vegas has to offer. There's a lot of creativity here. There's a lot of innovation here. There's so much positive stuff here in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's not all of the sin.
Yeah.
And then how do I bring all of these other aspects that I'm so passionate about healing, about growth, about transformation? How can we blend those and make it fun for people and make people want to find themselves here and find out more and go deeper and heal and grow? So it's been more fun than anything.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
I like being a part of it.
I do too.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It's needed. And I feel like there's just this little grid of light of all these little light workers that are building, holding up our light. And it might not be the lights of the strip, but it's a different kind of light that we're spreading. And I think it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
So any final words, thoughts you want to share with people out there who are on a path of integrating all their selves or exploring yoga or spirituality? Like, what is it that you like? What's a message from your heart to people out there who
I think
you want to
just
share with?
get uncomfortable. As much as it feels like you don't want to, like, do it. Some of the best things that I've ever done for myself was just like throwing myself out there and watching myself figure out how to swim. You know what I mean? Like with traveling, I was like, I'm doing this. I'm really doing this. I'm going across the world. I've never been out of the country. And it ended up being one of the biggest blessings of my whole entire life. So if I have one thing, it's like, get out of your comfort zone. Really, as hard as that seems and sounds, it's really our minds. It's all it is. It's like our minds, like you said earlier. Are we going to feed the fear within our minds? Or are we going to feed the love within our minds? And so much is possible when you get out of your head and start getting out into the world and experiencing what there is to experience. And growth is out there if you're willing to take it.
I couldn't agree more, girl.
Yeah.
I'm going to be booking a flight somewhere.
Let's go. I'm in.
Where are we going? I need it. I know. I was like watching my friends in Nosara and Costa Rica. I was like
beautiful.
Looking at going to Bali.
Let me know. I'm ready.
I have friends all over. I know.
I'm always ready.
I'm itching. And I know whenever I do, I'll bring back some good medicine from around the world.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's all it's about. It's like experience all the things we can experience and learn something from it.
And life is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to just get so weighed down by the mundane and the routine and the every day's the same, you know? And I say this all the time, like you could be one choice away from opening yourself up to a world of possibility that didn't exist before because all you were doing was the same thing every single day, you know?
In your comfort zone.
In your comfort zone.
Yep.
So go get uncomfortable, you guys.
Yep. Get out there and kill it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to follow Ray and her journey, make sure to go to the show notes and follow her on Instagram. Also check out her website and what she's doing down in Peru in November. You might even see me there. But yeah, thank you again for being here. You're welcome back anytime. Until next week, we'll see you guys later. See you for now. Bye.